Hi, everyone. My name is Devin. I'm with the Brewster Ladies Library, and this program is sponsored by the Brewster Ladies Library Association and its members. I also wanted to thank some of the other CLAMS libraries that helped me co-sponsor tonight's program. No particular order, that would be Gotuit, Vineyard Haven, Falmouth, Provincetown, Sturgis, and Edgartown. And we're here tonight to learn about Tea for Health, a virtual talk with Judy Palken, registered dietitian. Drinking tea seems to provide multiple health benefits, and there are so many varieties of delicious tea to enjoy. We will find some creative and practical ways to get more of this versatile and healthful beverage into your life. We'll also enjoy tea art in this presentation, and you'll be amazed at how many wonderful paintings celebrate the tradition of drinking tea. And about our presenter, Judy. She is an MNSRD and LDN, a registered dietitian who translates the science of nutrition into practical recommendations for health. She has a master's degree in clinical nutrition from Cornell University and spent many years in Boston hospitals with a specialty in cardiac nutrition. More recently, she has worked in nutrition research in the Division of Preventive and Behavioral Medicine at the University of Massachusetts Medical School in Worcester.
I got my banana peel.
Currently, Judy develops
So
nutrition
I can't
classes.
hear anything.
Joan, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself.
Got a lot of trash, Dan. Hello?
Currently, Judy develops nutrition classes teaching
I
how
can see it, but I can't hear it.
food choices and other healthful behaviors can reduce inflammation, promote good health, and help us feel our best. And I'm going to turn it over to Judy. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Devin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
So I'm so happy to see all of you here. I really appreciate being invited. I'm happy to be at the Brewster Ladies Library. So I've been a registered dietitian for a long time, and what really interests me the most and I get really excited about is how the food choices we make can help us to stay healthy and feel our best. And today in this class, Tea for Health, we're delving into one particular food or beverage, tea, and how it can affect our health. And I always like to hope when I have a class that if people even get one idea, one or two little ideas for something you can do, maybe a small change you can make to have your diet serve you better, then I'm happy. So I hope after this class, maybe you'll be inspired to have a cup of tea, or who knows, maybe some of you have one with you right now, like I do. There is a handout, by the way, that has a lot, but not all of the information I'm going to say on it. And Devin will be getting that to you at some point after the class. So my next slide. This is what I want to talk to you about this evening. I want to talk about the health benefits of tea, the wonderful health benefits, some of the different types of tea, and then the most important part really is some advice about how maybe you can have more tea in your diet and over the course of your day. And then finally, tea art. And what I mean by tea art is I love to put paintings into my presentations. There's a lot of beautiful artwork out there of different foods and people enjoying foods, and I find them to be inspirational, and I hope you enjoy them too. I'm actually going to start out with some art. I'm going to show you 6 or 7 paintings to get started, and then we'll jump right into the other topics. So this elegant, soft painting is by one Jean-Baptiste Simeon Chardin, and it hangs in the Louvre in Paris. And this comes from a time when tea was still pretty rare in Europe, although it was becoming more common. But a lot of times the people that could afford tea were the wealthy people. And to back up and give you just a tad of history, it's thought that tea evolved in the Himalayas between the border kind of India and China. And it worked its way into China and first was used medicinally, but then became a very, very popular beverage in China. And sometime, probably in the 1500s, traders brought it over to Europe. and it became extremely popular in the Netherlands and
It's so much laundry, it's ridiculous. You know?
if everyone wants to mute, that would be great. Anyway, became very popular in Europe, but it took time to be affordable. So this painting shows probably a time period when it was still an elegant luxury. Contrast with this Van Gogh of a humble tea kettle. By 1885, virtually everybody in England could afford tea. Throughout Europe, it was very popular, very affordable. And here's another Van Gogh. These are just sketches made out of chalk. They're at the Van Gogh Museum in the Netherlands. One thing I love about this one that has nothing to do with tea, but it's just fascinating, is look in the upper right-hand corner. And here in his sketch, he's got a sideways sketch of a topic he often sketched, which is a cottage at night. So leave it to Van Gogh, the genius, to hang this sketch sideways in one of his other pictures. So it turns out that many of the beautiful paintings of tea seem to have been done by Mary Cassatt. Mary Cassatt, some of you might know, was an American, but she became an Impressionist, and she was really the only American to exhibit with the Impressionists in Paris in the 1800s. And she was known for her soft paintings of women and children. And this is her sister Lydia in an elegant pink gown holding an elegant cup of tea. How beautiful.
There's pecans and chocolate chips. And then there's nuts in the brain.
Marianne on that one.
Yeah, I like nuts in my hand, mouth, not in my stuff.
Oh,
If you can hear me, please
very
mute.
texture.
Okay, so here's another Mary Cassatt, very different from the other one. It seems a little more in focus, a little more detailed. I love this. This was Mary Cassatt's mother's first cousin, so I guess that makes her first cousin once removed. And look at the beautiful tea service. Here is yet another Mary Cassatt painting of people enjoying tea. This one's at the MFA in Boston. I'm guessing maybe some of you maybe have seen it. This one is interesting in that it's been criticized because a lot of people don't like the fact that a teacup is hiding a large part of this young lady's face, and also that the tea service is so large. But I think it's a fun painting to look at nonetheless. And then finally, for tea paintings for the moment, this is a Jackson Pollock. It's supposed to be a teacup. I don't see a teacup. I've looked, but it's still fun and colorful. And prompts me to ask the question, what do we mean by tea anyway? So tea, true tea.
All right, Nathan, I'm going to hang up now.
True tea that I'm mostly going to be talking about is from a plant called Camellia sinensis. And it's an evergreen plant that's cultivated around the world in tropical and subtropical regions. It can grow big like a tree or stay small like a shrub or a bush. And this is a drawing of what the leaves and the flowers look like. So in terms of health, tea is an outstanding beverage choice. Tea has lots of wonderful compounds in it that seem to be good for our health, specifically catechins. Catechins, there's at least 6 of them that we know of that have strong antioxidant activity. That means they scavenge up free radicals, which are harmful chemicals and can contribute to disease. The catechins are also anti-inflammatory. And as we know, inflammation contributes to a lot of chronic illness. Tea also has other great phytochemicals. One of them is quercetin, a great antioxidant, and other polyphenolic compounds. It's not important to know the names of these things, just to know that they're wonderful and they're in there. Tea, as you may have discovered, also has some caffeine. It's got tannins, which also may be good for health, and some minerals. It seems that green tea has more antioxidant activity than black tea and provides the most benefit, although as we'll see, there's benefit to all of them, including black tea. So I'm going to talk now about some of the disease states and conditions where benefit has been speculated or shown. Most of all, cardiovascular disease, which is the leading cause of death in the US. Green tea and black tea consumption are associated with a reduced risk of heart disease and stroke. Green tea catechins in particular have been shown to reduce waist circumference, LDL cholesterol, and blood pressure. And these three factors contribute to cardiovascular disease. LDL cholesterol, you may know, is the quote unquote bad one that leads to plaque in the arteries. So that's great if these green tea catechins can do that. Also, type 2 diabetes, which there's unfortunately a lot of in our country. Tea consumption may help to prevent type 2 diabetes. It may boost insulin activity, which is lacking in people that have diabetes. And it's associated with a decreased fasting glucose or blood sugar and a decreased hemoglobin A1C, which is the long-term marker of blood sugar. So it's a marker of your blood sugar over like 2 to 3 months. And drinking tea seems to help decrease it, or at least it's associated with a decrease. These are associations, not usually clinical trials, but there's a lot of great associations here. In terms of weight loss, tea might have a modest effect on weight loss. Catechins, especially that unpronounceable one, epogallocatechin gallate, may affect energy metabolism and help with weight loss. Green and black tea have also been shown to decrease the bacteria that are associated with obesity that live in the gut and increase the bacteria associated with lean body mass. So in other words, tea might have an effect on our microbiome and favor those bacteria associated with lean body mass. So that's more good news. Drinking tea is also associated with cognitive health. Daily tea consumption may offer protection from cognitive decline. Catechins, again, with their potent antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compounds, are associated with improved language and memory and lower risk of cognitive decline. And there's something else in tea. There's a lot of substances in tea, something called L-theanine that may help with brain function. Osteoporosis, bone thinning, osteopenia, very common and can be very, very serious. Green tea in particular may help improve bone mineral density and reduce the risk of fracture. It's those polyphenols and catechins again, decreased oxidative stress and anti-inflammatory effects. Interesting that it's not just tea that's good for bones. We've all heard about we should get enough calcium and vitamin D, but there's other individual foods besides tea that have been shown to have benefit. And I was happy to learn that apples and prunes are two of them. So some common foods that, are good for us, that we like, that can help with our bone health, including tea. Viral illnesses. So there have been studies and randomized controlled trials, epidemiologic studies, I should say, large population studies and controlled trials that show a significantly lower incidence of influenza, the flu, and people with higher consumption of green tea. And it's thought that it may be of help in preventing other viruses as well. There is some data out there about tea helping to decrease the risk of COVID. Dental health. The polyphenols in tea help to decrease risk of dental caries, which are cavities, and periodontal disease. And who doesn't want that? So I've got a list here of the possible health benefits of tea. This is not a complete list. There are others. And just a heads up, this list is on the handout you're going to be getting. So if you're intrigued by this, don't feel you have to copy this down or anything. But cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, weight loss, cognitive health, osteoporosis, viral illnesses, dental health, Parkinson's disease, which I didn't mention yet, seems to be associated with decreased risk of Parkinson's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, people that drink a lot of tea seem to function better. And there's some interesting data that drinking tea may help to prevent certain cancers. So all this to say, if you like tea, you're in luck. The health benefits really seem to be there. Although, of course, more studies are needed. Okay, so back to the tea plant. Just try to get a better view. Sorry about that. Again, it's from a plant called Camellia sinensis, the true tea. And it's an evergreen plant, and how much the leaves are exposed to air and oxidized and also fermented determines which type of tea will result. And you may have heard of some or all of these. So, and I'm going to explain what each one is, and these are on the handout. So there's white tea, green tea, yellow tea. What's that? I'll tell you in a minute. Oolong tea, black tea, and pu'er tea. So I'm guessing that probably most people are familiar with green tea, black tea, maybe oolong tea. Some of these are less common. So let's take a look at them. Oh, first another painting. This is in a romantic style, one Van Gerard. I may be mispronouncing his name. He was an Australian artist. And this shows tea trees at the coast of Victoria, which is the southern part of Melbourne. Beautiful painting. It's fun to see what they look like growing in a painting like this. Okay, so first of all, white tea. White tea is the least processed of all the teas. It's unoxidized. It's made from unopened plant buds and young leaves. And it's said to have a delicate and kind of sweet taste. And if anybody drinks this and likes it, or you've tried it and you don't like it or anything, I'd love it if you'd mention that in the chat box, because it is one of the less common teas. So I'd be interested in hearing what anyone has to say. Then comes green tea. Green tea is produced from freshly harvested leaves, immediately steamed to prevent oxidation. I understand that all Japanese tea and most Chinese tea is green tea. And again, green tea is the one, they all have health benefits. Green tea really seems to excel. Yellow tea. Honestly, yellow tea was a new one to me. I've only heard of it recently, and it turns out, with good reason, it's the most rare, and it's only, I think, working its way over here. It is available at Upton Tea Imports, which is a great online site for ordering all different kinds of quality tea. And on your handout, I put the web information for Upton Tea Imports. I bet some of you are already familiar with it. But yellow tea is allowed to ferment a little before it's dried, and it's supposed to produce a tea that is similar to green tea, but a bit more mellow. I've read that it doesn't have the maybe grassy taste that green tea has. I have not tried it yet, but I'm very anxious to. And if anybody has tried it, please let us know. Put it in the chat box. Tell us about it. Then there's oolong tea. The tea leaves are allowed to oxidize for a short period. And it's kind of, I guess, a cross, maybe a little bit between green tea and black tea. And then there's black tea, probably the tea that most of us maybe grew up either having or seeing our parents have. It's the most common here anyway. The leaves are exposed to air and totally oxidized, which turns them very dark. This is not to say that because they're oxidized, it's a bad thing. Again, black tea does have health benefit. And finally, and intriguingly, pu'er tea, which is another one that I want to know more about. It's a dark tea. It's fully oxidized and fermented by anaerobic bacteria. It's sold compressed or loose. When it's compressed, it's made into these round, or they can be square cakes of tea that are very hard, and sometimes they're kept for years. It reminds me of a fine wine. They're valued and they're kept for years. I found a YouTube video that shows a young lady using something called a tea needle. There's a very specific way. It's like a pick. You're supposed to pick it apart a very specific way to get just the right amount of tea leaves for your cup of tea and keep the compressed thing of tea still looking good. I've included the link to that YouTube video on the handout just because I thought it was really interesting. If you've tried this and you have anything to say about it, please let us know. Okay, time for another painting. Here's Mary Cassatt again, just brilliant with the tea. I love this painting, Afternoon Tea Party. This is at the National Gallery of Art in Washington. I actually tried to find out who these ladies are. Very often in paintings that recent from the 1800s, you can find out who the people were. I wasn't able to find out, but I just think it's a beautiful painting showing how social tea can be. Such enjoyment we can get sharing it with another person. Someone always asks, so I've included a caffeine chart comparing the caffeine in different teas and coffee. This is from the company, the tea company, the Republic of Tea. So that thing down at the bottom that says high calf tea, I think that's just something unique to this company. They have a tea that they've added some extra tea extract to make it higher in caffeine, should anybody want a real buzz from their tea. But the main takeaway I want you to see here is that even black tea, which is the highest in caffeine, well, they didn't put pu'er on here, but so black tea is the highest here. Even that has a little bit less than half the caffeine of a cup of coffee, equal volume of tea and coffee. So if you're looking to have less caffeine, you'll get it from tea as opposed to coffee, unless of course you choose decaf. And there is decaf tea, and there is of course decaf coffee. So there are so many wonderful beverages that we can pour out of this pot. And this pot, by the way, is by Henri Rousseau, a French post-impressionist artist. Cute painting. There's so many nice beverages we could pour out of here that we could call tea. So let's take a look at some of them, the good and maybe the not so good. So tea can be flavored, and I'm sure we've all encountered this. Maybe you have some at home right now. Tea can be flavored, most notably like Earl Grey tea, which is a black tea or a blend of black teas flavored with bergamot oil. Bergamot is a citrus fruit about the size of an orange. I think it can be green. Earl Grey is, my opinion, delicious. Tea can also be flavored with, shown here as raspberry peach and pomegranate, all different kinds. These can be fun and can make nice gifts. Tea can be scented. Not quite sure the difference between scented and flavored. Maybe it's more delicate. The most common scented one that I've come across is jasmine tea. The jasmine petals are rubbed into the steamed leaves of green or semi-fermented tea. There's also rose tea, lavender tea, cherry tea, usually fruits or flowers. Lovely. There's also mint tea. This gets a little bit confusing. So this mint tea is when black or green tea is mixed with fresh or dried mint leaves and often sugar, but it's still real tea, meaning it'll still have caffeine. This is as opposed to the herbal tea like peppermint tea that would just be the peppermint leaves. And there's smoked tea, Lapsang Souchong, smoked tea. I may have pronounced that wrong, I'm not sure. It's a black tea smoke dried over a pine wood fire. So this is, one that I think we're coming to the first one that I'm not going to really recommend you make your daily tea, because I don't think we should have smoked anything as our regular choice, because smoked foods can be bad for health in the long term. But sure, having it once in a while is probably a really nice treat. So enjoy it in that way. Oh, let me back up. I just want to say, back to the history of tea, Twinings is one of the oldest tea company. And by the way, if you're interested in this historical aspect of tea and other beverages, I'm going to hold up a book where I got some of my information from. A History of the World in 6 Glasses by Tom Standage. This is a fantastic book, and I did put it on the handout.
Right up here.
So the reference is there, where he goes in great detail and fascinating about how humanity was shaped and altered by beer, wine, spirits, coffee, tea, and cola beverages. See, can you see this right now? Back to the Lapsang Souchong. Okay, back to the next one. And this is one of my personal favorites. Love it. Matcha. Tell me if you love matcha. Put it in the chat box if you want. So what is matcha? Matcha, and this canister of it, it's a small metal canister, is just what one of the brands sells it in. It's a finely ground powder made from green tea that has been grown in the shade. Something about growing in the shade makes it have more chlorophyll. So it's a bright green, beautiful powder. And so you mix the powder with hot water, boiling water, or a hot milk, like an almond milk or an oat milk or whatever you want. And so you make a tea, and you're mixing in the powder from the leaves. It's the only tea really in which the leaves are consumed as part of the drink rather than infused in hot water and then discarded. So you're getting more. This means you're getting more antioxidants, more catechins, more of the good stuff. Unfortunately, if you're sensitive to caffeine, it also means you're getting more caffeine. But you could, time it early in the day if you like this. So more on matcha. It's become very popular. And by we, I mean in the US, it's consumed mostly in sweetened drinks, like you might find at a Starbucks or somewhere. So lattes, fraps, drinks that tend to have a lot of sugar. So if you are out and you're ordering a matcha latte or a hot matcha or something, ask the barista or whoever is making it about added sugar and syrups and see if you can get it without it. You can also get matcha these days in, there's a matcha wine, there's matcha cake frosting, there's matcha muffins and cookies. It's become trendy and put in a lot of things. My recommendation, of course, is that you just buy some for home use. You can make a cup of matcha using a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of the powder, stir it in, add your whatever you like to add to tea, and enjoy it and get a great boost of antioxidants. You also can add it to oatmeal, to yogurt, to salad dressings, to anything you choose. Chai, make this so I can see my slide. No, it's not going to let me. Oh, well. So chai just means tea in Hindi. So we don't even have to say chai tea because that's redundant, although we kind of do say that sometimes. It's usually black tea. And it often has some combination of milk, whole milk often, sugar, white sugar, cinnamon, cloves, fennel, cardamom, peppercorns, ginger, star anise. So lots of aromatic, warm flavorings. When you purchase chai as a mix, like you might find I've seen it at Trader Joe's, for example.
I didn't fold everything on the last batch.
That's not a problem, thank you.
When you purchase chai mixes, you're unfortunately going to find a lot of sugar in it. So, but you can make up your own. You can add these ingredients to your own cup of tea.
I lost his glove today.
I'm Mark and Anne. Would you mute,
Sorry.
please?
Okay, now on to kombucha. A lot of people love their kombucha. Kombucha is a fermented tea beverage that has sugar, bacteria, and yeast. It's a mixed bag because we know that fermented things are good for us, good for gastrointestinal health, but kombucha is going to have sugar. I don't see a way around it because the bacteria and the yeast have to feed on something to ferment and give it its bubbles. It's a little bit fizzy in its flavor. That's not to say it's awful. I mean, you can have kombucha and enjoy it, but I want you to be aware that it's usually or always going to have sugar. This picture is of the kombucha case. It happens to be my Wegmans in Northborough. There's many different varieties. They flavor it with other ingredients. It's not cheap. I was looking at the prices and easily $3.50 or more per bottle. So I think of it as a fun treat. It does contain those beneficial probiotics from the bacteria and the yeast. There's limited evidence for any health claims due to drinking kombucha. I think you should just drink it if you enjoy it and you love it and don't think that it's gonna, like cure anything. These days, kombucha is blended into coffee. Sounds kind of weird, right? Blending a tea beverage into coffee, cocktails, juices, and cupcake frosting. If you wanted to make your own kombucha, which many people do, you would need a SCOBY. A SCOBY stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And what you see here floating around in this jar of tea is actually the culture of bacteria and yeast. I don't know which is which. And yes, that is all edible. And people, even when you buy commercial kombucha, like I showed you from Wegmans, you will see little filaments in there. It's all edible. It's perfectly fine. To me, honestly, this one looks like a little bit much, but to each their own. Okay, here's another one. Southern sweet tea. Excuse me. Here's another one that I honestly can't recommend for health, but I'm showing you just for fun. Popular down south. And here's a recipe that claims that it's lower in the sugar than many other Southern sweet tea recipes. Notice that it's got a cup of granulated sugar. This makes about a gallon. That's still a lot of sugar, even though it makes a gallon. So I'm sure it's delicious. Just so sure it's delicious, but a lot of sugar. So enjoy in moderation. And now I want to talk about the herbal teas. Tisane is the French way of saying that word. Herbal teas are lovely. They are not the true tea plant. They come from the leaves, flowers, roots, shoots, bark, any other part of other plants. You could just make up your own by taking an herb from your garden or your yard and putting it in some water and steeping it. There are many unproven claims about herbal teas, but they haven't been studied rigorously. There's not a lot of money for that. And there do seem to be some health benefits, small health benefits to some of them, but I think we should all have them if we enjoy them. So the benefits, they will have phytochemicals. Herbs leaves and flowers are plant foods. There's going to be plant compounds, and those are often beneficial. Drinking herbal tea is good for hydration. Oftentimes people don't want plain water, but they might be very happy to have an herbal tea. They contain few, if any, calories, and you can grow your own herbs and make your own herb tea, and that is fun and satisfying. I love this interesting painting. This is by Janet Fish. She is an American realist artist, born in the 1930s, and she's still painting as far as I know. This one hangs at Smith College. Herb tea. So that looks like it might be red bush tea or rooibos. I may be pronouncing that wrong. But Janet Fish is known for her play of light through objects. And if you look at the light going through what looks to be depression glass and the teapot, just gorgeous. So the effects of herbal teas are likely to be mild, but they are there. They seem to be there. So enjoy your herbal tea if you like it. And I have this list on the handout. So if you're interested, don't feel you need to copy it down. So chamomile tea is known to be relaxing. And some people have it in the evening because it may help to promote sleep. A lot of people find that. Hibiscus tea may lower blood pressure and cholesterol. Elderberry tea may help with colds and flu. And the top photo there is of elderberries. Cinnamon, so cinnamon tea or cinnamon in any other herbal tea may help in a small way to lower blood sugar. Ginger made into a tea can relieve nausea and vomiting. And this can be as simple as you just have some fresh ginger or dried ginger and pour hot water over it. And finally, that peppermint tea I was mentioning earlier. Peppermint does help aid digestion and can help to relieve irritable bowel syndrome. And peppermint is shown to the right. So now some tea advice. If you're already drinking tea, but you want more, or if you're not the world's biggest fan of tea, but you still want those health benefits, these are for you. So for your tea, for the most part, I recommend you drink freshly brewed tea. The popular bottled teas that you see everywhere you shop contain fewer of those wonderful compounds than home brewed tea. They don't maybe last a long time. So make up your own tea at home. Nothing could be easier or, for that matter, less expensive. Drink tea throughout the day. So steep often. You might as well get those antioxidants over the course of the day and keep them in your system. They're so good for you. Oh, here's another Renoir. Maybe I haven't shown you a Renoir yet, but here's a Renoir just showing in a very pretty painting how social it is. And one way to maybe space tea throughout your day is to consider the afternoon tea. Maybe that would be for you. This is just an idea of mine. I think it's always nice if we enjoy our cooking and eating implements. So enjoy your tea things. Here's a Renoir of a pretty cup, and maybe you have a pretty cup or mug or, you know, even a to-go tea, coffee mug that you bring with you. But, you know, enjoy them, enjoy your tea kettle, your teapot. There's so many pretty things out there. A lot of us have fine china that we feel like we don't get to use enough. Sometimes life doesn't present enough opportunities for that. But I find having a cup of tea or coffee, for that matter, in the fine china is an easy way to just take one piece and enjoy using it at home. Add a tea bag to your water bottle. So if you go out and about and you're carrying a water bottle, hopefully a reusable one like this, throw in a tea bag. The water does not have to be hot. The tea will steep. It takes a little longer, but you know, over the course of your day, it will get stronger and stronger, and you can just keep adding more water to it. If you're traveling, pack your tea. This is good for a lot of reasons. You'll get your health benefits from the tea wherever you're going. And sometimes when we travel, I know that I notice I don't always love the taste of the water somewhere else. Even though the water might be perfect, the water is perfectly good. Water tastes different in different regions and even in different towns, and we just get used to our own water. But if you have tea bags with you and you throw it in the water, it might be your glass of water in a hotel, might be on the airplane, then you're not going to notice the water. You're just going to taste the tea. So if you keep a list of things that you need to bring when you travel, add tea bags to that list. And here, this is for you if maybe you don't love drinking tea so much, but you're willing to do other things with it. If you like to make smoothies, throw some of that matcha or even just some tea leaves into your smoothies. You can throw tea leaves into baked goods. You can create lattes, all kinds of things. You can even add tea leaves to water for cooking grains and soups. You likely won't even notice it. Here's my recipe for what I call antioxidant smoothie. This is on the handout. And just like the name implies, it's a super healthful smoothie with blueberries and grapes and cherries and parsley, almonds, ginger, matcha, turmeric, which is a spice that's anti-inflammatory, and you just blend it all. You notice I have a very tiny amount of matcha in there, only a 1/16 of a teaspoon, which is considered to be a dash. However, you could always put more in there. I just developed the recipe with tiny amounts of matcha and turmeric because these flavorings have an edge to them. And so I know not everybody might love that. So you can always increase it if you want to. And regarding the fruit in here, if you're out of these fruits, you could always use other fruits. Smoothies are very forgiving. Probably almost goes without saying at this point, but avoid the tea beverages that are high in sugar. There will be a lot, and most of them do have sugar or some non-nutritive sweetener that we now know may not be so good for us. So it's actually better if you like sugar in your tea, you're better off just brewing tea and adding your own sugar, because you can add a little bit. You probably aren't going to add the amount that these guys add. Decaf tea. Oh, my heart sank when I saw this, hence the face here. So some of the decaf teas have less health benefit. So they use something called ethyl acetate in many of them to remove the antioxidant, to remove the caffeine, excuse me, but it's a blunt instrument and it removes some of the antioxidants as well. A lot of them, actually. Not all tea companies use this method. The ethyl acetate isn't thought to be harmful. It's just that it removes those wonderful antioxidants. So I called Lipton, for example, I called Red Rose tea. They use this ethyl acetate. I think that it's some of the higher end tea companies that don't. But if you really are attached to your decaf tea and you want to know, just call the company. The phone number is often on the side of the box. I think it's worth knowing because part of the reason we might be drinking tea, not the whole reason, but part of the reason is we want the health benefits, right? Consider what you add to your tea. So if you're adding a lot of sugar or a lot of honey for that matter, that's going to bring the carb count way up. I mentioned the non-nutritive sweeteners. Consider your milk or your cream. Obviously, you want to have it with what you enjoy in it, but you know, maybe you want to think about the amounts. Here's another Renoir. He did many of these paintings with cups, creamer, sugar bowls. Question: when is a cup of tea with sugar a perfectly good and healthy choice? Okay,
Are
so
you
it's,
asking that to us?
yeah.
I try not to have too much sugar, but it's delicious. So what would you recommend?
Is this Devin? I can't see the face. Is that you,
Yeah,
Devin?
it is Devin.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. Sometimes often maybe with some of us, we're craving something sweet after dinner. If a cup of tea with sugar is going to take the edge off that sweet craving, then that might be a good idea. So just, you know, sometimes you know it might do that. Sometimes you know it might not do that. So that was my trick question. So tea is susceptible to air, moisture, light, and heat. So it's always going to keep best when it's stored in a cool, dark place away from direct sources of light or heat. So the best is tea tins like the one showed here. This is on Amazon. It's part of a set with flour, sugar. You know, you've all seen those sets. Very often good teas will come in a tin, but you want to keep it safe. And take a look at the expiration date. It may not have the same health benefits way beyond the expiration date, but the good news is if you look at the expiration dates, they go way out for tea. I know many of us are concerned. We have environmental concerns with the crises our planet is facing. If you're going out for tea, like, you know, to a Starbucks or something, please consider bringing your own cup or mug. During COVID and for a while after the big crisis, they were not accepting our cups because I tried several times, but they're back, at least at Starbucks, to allowing, you can hand your mug over and they will fill it with tea for you. So that's always a good idea. Again, planetary advice, compost your loose tea leaves. If you have loose tea leaves, just throw them into compost if you do that. Not the bags, unfortunately. Some of the bags, even the little paper ones, do contain a little plastic that's used in the sealing of the bag. So we don't want that to go into our compost, ideally not to go into the soil. A word about those fancy tea bags that are kind of nylon. And you'll see these in nice tea shops. They're all over the place. These nylon tea bags leach billions of microplastic particles into every single cup of tea. Billions. This is in the Guardian, the reference is down there, but it's known. And it's a mystery to me why anybody still carries these. I decline them. If I'm going out for tea and I see that's what they have, I will not have it. And I tell them, and then I'm angry when they still carry them. So yeah, I want you to be aware of that. There's no good reason to have that. How to brew tea can be as simple or as complicated as we want it to be. What I've shown here is the little over a page from my edition of The Joy of Cooking, 1997, with all kinds of advice on the correct way to brew tea. You may or may not be interested in looking at that, but some of what I got from that was tea is not ready when its color changes. That's one of the commonest mistakes people make in brewing tea. And tea bags, most tea bags should steep for at least 3 minutes and no more than 5. But green tea should steep for only 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, and it says bring the teapot to the kettle, not vice versa. You want to keep the water as hot as possible for as long as possible. So there's lots of little rules and suggestions for doing it right, which you may or may not be interested in. So we shouldn't, from a health standpoint, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that tea is a simple pleasure. We get so much, relaxation. It can be a time to read. It can be a time to socialize, to sit down and plan things, just take stock of the day. Just time for ourselves. One final painting, André Derain, the French artist, The Cup of Tea from 1935. And you can see to her left the teapot and the cup and just, enjoying her book. So I wish that for all of you. And with that, I thank you very much. And I'm happy to hear any comments or questions if you have any.